What is up, YouTube? So this one is a little bit different. It's only going to be a little short video, but I wanted to make something, and I have 3 reasons why I wanted to make this video. Number 1 is service documents. I want to discuss service documents a little bit and service manuals and how sometimes the interpretation of a service manual can lead you astray. 2, I want to discuss a little frequency counter that I picked up off eBay. And 3, I want to discuss a little bit of ham radio. Ham radio is a hobby of mine. I am a licensed radio amateur. Maybe some of you have dabbled in the subject as well. The channel itself naturally kind of drifted and ended up towards cassette deck videos. I'm not looking to change the channel or anything like that. I'm not going to move it to ham radio, but this is always in the background. This is just something that I've been doing, and I thought, why not just put the feelers out and see if anybody likes similar things to what I like. So if you are a licensed ham radio operator, let me know in the comments. If you have a call sign, then great, maybe we're in each other's logs, but I won't go too much into the ham radio thing, so don't worry too much about that. What you need to worry about is I enjoy repairing and restoring things, and this is radios, cassette decks. Over here, as you can see, I have a video player and that TV, which seemed like a good idea at the time. There's plenty of things around my garage and around my house, and I'm sure around yours, because you possibly enjoy fixing things. I get the satisfaction of fixing things. It doesn't necessarily mean it has to be one genre. Anyway, for those who don't know, treat this as a radio. Okay, this is, imagine your old CB in the 70s. If you're not au fait with any of this, it transmits, it receives, you can talk to people on it. This particular radio is a little bit special because it has a couple of little modes on it that let you transmit and receive a little bit further on low power. That's about as far as I'm going to go in it, basically. It is a Trio TR9000 from around the late 70s, I'm going to say. And it's a really interesting little radio because, a little bit contrary to what we usually have, if you look, we have separate boards for separate things. So on a radio you have a transmit, a receive, you have loads of little gubbins that do bits and bobs, but at the front here is a board behind all the switches called the switchboard. The final unit is at the back there, which is what everything else ends up going through, and each board does something different. What's interesting about this is this modular design actually makes it simpler to work on and simpler to service. So all of these cables just connect the modules together. So if you want to fix a certain part of the radio, you can take that part out and you can disconnect the cables, fix it, put it back together. As you've noticed, this one here has lots of shiny new caps because guess what? Paul's been in and I've been recapping it. Now, as a ham radio operator, I'm always trying to find nice radios, but I particularly wanted this radio. This is the 3rd one that I bought. I bought 2 previous ones on eBay because, well, when they turned up, they weren't as working as what was originally stated. And in the end, I did get one that was working, needed a little bit of fettling, and I've recapped it. I think that the recapping has affected the calibration, because what's happening with this little radio here is when you're transmitting on a certain frequency, it's actually going out on a different frequency. Same as when you're receiving a frequency, it's not really reporting the correct frequency that you're listening to. So imagine a radio in your car. If you want to listen to radio 1, round here it's 98.1. What's happening with this one is you have to tune it to like 98.7 in order to listen to 98.1, if that makes any sense. Same with the transmit. If I want to transmit on this frequency, which there should be a 1 and a 4 there, I'm transmitting on 145.00000, I have to kind of tune it up to about that. If I transmit on that frequency, it actually goes out on 5.000, so something's wrong, it needs a calibrate. Possibly the caps is what's done that, which leads me to the service docs. Most older radio stuff at least has a service manual. New stuff tends to not, because it's either not user serviceable or the components are so small that you can't really twiddle with them and fix them and calibrate them yourself. This service manual has led me up the garden path, so I wanted to discuss that a little bit. And in order to repair what's going on with this radio through this service manual, I needed a frequency counter. And a frequency counter is exactly that. It counts frequency. It displays a frequency. And a frequency, I'm not going to go too much into the science, but it's measured in hertz. And I do have a fluke that measures frequency, but it's kind of unexpectedly a bit pants for a fluke. So I was shopping around for a frequency counter. They are or can be very expensive. And you know me, I'm an auctionman, I like a bit of a bargain. So I found this little bad boy for 16 quid on eBay. And as you can see, it displays 0.00 megahertz because we're not plugged into anything. There's loads of little settings on it and things, gubbins you can mess about with. All I needed it to do was to measure frequency. And there's two wires coming off it, an earth and a positive. And through this service document, I'm going to measure some frequencies internal in the radio, which should, if I correct them, should correct our error. That's about the gist of this video. The second thing I wanted to talk about was service ducts and how this service duct in particular, let me just move over there because our LED light is designed to have a bit of a play. Service ducts are not always intuitive, shall we say. I'm just squaring myself on this seat. So this is the electrical adjustments for that radio over there. And you do them all step by step. Voltage checks, backup voltage checks. It's similar stuff as you would on any cassette deck radio, things like that. And you would check all of these things in order, and hopefully at the end it's fully calibrated and ready to use. So this is the ones I'm looking at with the ticks, because I've done the ones in the ticks. And what it's asking me to do in here was not as clear as I would have liked it. So take, for example, this check here. Let's zoom in a little bit and you can see what I'm talking about. So we're into kind of technical stuff here. If you're not into this, please skip forward about 30 seconds. But to adjust the frequency of the receive and the transmit in this radio, you've got to do it in each of the different modes that it has. It has plenty of different modes. So for this one, the instructions says set to receive mode, put the mode switch to FM2, which I'll show you in a minute, and on the front dial, set that to that frequency there. So we're going to turn that dial on the front until it reads that. You use a frequency counter, and on the board labelled PLL, which is this board over here, that's called the PLL board, a frequency counter on test point 1, and then there's a switch called VR2 which you will adjust, and the reading you're looking on your frequency counter is there, 134.305. So when we hook up that frequency counter, it should say that. If it doesn't say that, you turn this until it does, within plus or minus 20 hertz. Sounds pretty simple, doesn't it? Well, this has bamboozled me for the last 2 weeks, because what I've been doing is attaching the frequency counter to the test point, adjusting the VR2, and nothing happened. So you think to yourself, that's unusual. Why has nothing happened? Everything else checks out absolutely fine. There must be a damaged component. And what I found was the only thing that could possibly be damaged is this VR2, which is a variable resistor. I'll just show you one. And here is VR2. It is a stand-up variable resistor, 470 ohms. Okay, there's a bit of hoo-ha trying to get hold of some of these. They're not ideal, they're not the exact right size, but I did get one to fit and soldered it in. And guess what happened? No change. When I was adjusting that VR2, I had my frequency counter on that test point, nothing happened. So I'm like scratching my head just to trying to work out what's going on. What am I doing wrong? And that's the lesson I want to give in this video, is it's not always intuitive as to what you have to do. These things are probably wrote in the mid-70s. I imagine the people writing them maybe didn't think later that we were going to be doing this in 40 years or whatever we're at now, 50 years, possibly 50 years. But I'll explain where I went wrong and see if you maybe would have made the same mistake. So this is our PLL board, and this is my negative lead for my frequency counter, and over here is test point 1. That little silver pin you can just see at the end of my beautiful ceramic screwdriver, so I don't electrocute anything. Test point 1, and over here we have VR1 and VR2. And as it says, frequency counter on test point 1, and we're going to adjust VR2. Simple, right? Except nothing happened. So I reread this, and because we were concentrating so much on this row and columns, switch didn't actually mean I'm adjusting a switch called VR2. If we go way up here, The adjustment is on the unit called switch. See, switch, PLL, two separate modules back to the start. And guess where the switch unit is? That's right, behind the switches. So, for the purpose of this video as well, if you've got one of these TR9000s, I had a nightmare of a time trying to find anybody that had done this repair or had to calibrate one of these. I spoke to a guy who had, in fact, it was the only thing I found on the internet was a guy in America who'd repaired one, and it had a passing comment of, I calibrated it. And I actually got hold of him on qrz.com, which is a ham radio website, and he was sending me emails backwards and forwards, and bless the guy, he just said, I have no idea, this was years ago, who knows. So we're going to have a look at this frequency count. I'm going to demonstrate it. It's not a review, but it's more of a tip that these are outstanding for 16 quid. I'm not selling it. I don't know who made it. I imagine they're made in bulk, to be honest with you. It came from China. But I just want to demonstrate that, and then I'm going to demonstrate for anybody who has this radio how to adjust and calibrate these frequencies, because I've seen a lot of posts of people saying that their frequencies are off, but nobody said how to fix it, and I've had to work it out for myself. It's been very painful. So here we go. So for the first minute, what I'm going to talk about is this frequency counter. This is a 12 volt frequency counter. They come in kit form, or you can buy them exactly like this. This was £16 delivered. I'm sure it has lots of other features inside it. There's buttons you can press there. I want it to just demonstrate counting frequencies. You have 2 leads going for the power and 2 leads going to test the frequency. I already have one on the earth point on the radio, and I have this one, which is my little probe, because that was the crimp that I had lying about. I'm honestly astounded by the level of technology in this for 16 quid. I think we're actually in an age now where you don't have to spend mega money. A lot of the old guys would be like, oh, you got to spend 400 quid on a frequency counter. This works just as good. Yes, it's more fragile. Yes, it's probably not going to last if you drop it. But it depends on how often you're going to use it. For us, if you're using this a couple of times, then I think 16 quid is an absolute bargain. So let's give this a test. I will explain one step of this, and it's the same all the way down. I'm going to do one test and one adjust. You can figure the rest out yourself. But I'll explain what I'm going to do before we demonstrate the frequency counter. So in order to calibrate the FM mode of this radio, we're going to set our dial to this. We're going to use our frequency counter on test point 1, read what it says. It should be 134.305. That's what it should say on the frequency counter. If it's not, we're going to adjust VR2, which remember is on the switch unit, not the PLL unit. Switch unit is the unit behind the switches, okay? If you look down the back of the switches, he's rather crusty looking, but I have cleaned them. Variable resistors, pots, whatever you want to call them, is VR 1, 2, 3, and then there's 4 and 5 in here. So they do look a bit ropey, but actually they're fully functional and they've been cleaned with contact cleaner. The radio itself kind of looks a bit ropey, but in actual fact it's a bit of a peach. So the thing with service docs is follow them to the letter. A guy called Simon once told me that if you follow the instructions to the letter, you can never be wrong. So switch to FM2, which is what it said step 1, and we have to set this to 5.000000000, like so. First step's done. Now we've got to read the frequency. And this is really why I wanted to make this video, is to demonstrate this. So I'm going to put this in my little earth point, which is just going to sit in there. This is what's going to read your frequency, and if we can just see if you can just focus there. Test point 1 is here, and here we go. 134.3050. So 305 and nothing. And exactly what the service doc says, that is what we should have it set to. That's all you need. A simple tool, bang, done. It's read the frequency, move on. That's all I wanted it for. And it does the job great. So 16 quid, get yourself down to ebay.com and get one bought. Let's test the next mode. Quick further demonstration. I'll move the pot, double check everything, and that'll kind of wrap this up, guys. So next one, then we're going to move the switch to USB, which means upper sideband. We're going to have the dial set the same, frequency counter on the same place, and our switch to adjust is on VR3. We are looking for a different frequency this time, 134.306.5. So as a final demonstration, let's have a look at this one. I've not touched this one, so this may or may not be out. But yeah, I'm going to flick the switch to USB, which is on the front. That's us in USB. The frequency on the front remains the same. So let's try test point 1, and we are looking for 134.306.5. So we are just off it, just flicking towards it. We're just off it. So I wonder if, oh, there we go, it's flicking. So I wonder if we can kind of solidify that a little bit. Let me get this a tweak on camera and we'll see how this changes. Alright, so I have got my screwdriver on VR3 and I'm just going to go a bit crazy with this pot, and you should see it start to change. There we go, see it's going up, and if I tweak the pot round, it's going round. Oh, it's going down even. So we're looking for 134.306.5. I think we're about there. Let's take the pressure off slowly. There we go. And I'm using a ceramic screwdriver, which you'd always do. And it's just kind of, I'm happy with that. With a manual pot, I think that's exactly what it's going to be. It's got to be within 10 hertz. But that's it. I wanted to share my little journey. I wanted to share what I was doing on the sidelines, because I have 2 cassette decks that are in process. If I look down by my knees, I have a beautiful thing that I wanted when I was 15. I can't remember the model number, but that's a Panasonic. If we look up here, I have, but you've never seen one of these before, a Sony 5 cassette changer. That's coming next. But for the sake of this, I'm now convinced that this has been calibrated. And I hope my little, it's not a rant I suppose, but a little conversation between friends, between us all, about take care of your service documents, find 16 quid and go get one of them if you need a frequency counter, and ham radio. If it's something that you've ever thought about, maybe give it a Google and give it a try. It's good fun. Met some great people, had some good times and good laughs, and spoke to people all around the world. If this isn't your bag, then I apologise, and cassette decks are coming back soon. But something a little bit different for the weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Mostly gentlemen, I'll be honest with you. That wraps this up. That's it. As I said, don't worry, we're not going full ham radio on the channel or anything. We're still sticking to repairs, but in the ethos of restoration, which is the name of the channel, just wanting to share some adventures with you and a little bit of the journey. So, hope you're having a great weekend. Cassette deck's coming soon. I'm just about to finalise the belts on that thing on the floor, and that's a little bit of fun as well. But take care of yourselves. If you like this video, please like and subscribe. If you hate ham radio, please don't unsubscribe. But, you know, I can't understand why you would, or why you hate ham radio. Anyway, have a good weekend. Enjoy the sunshine as we're now in the summer, and peace.